to make his. All right, and we are live. You're on mute.
Hello and good evening, everyone. My name is Heather Day, and I serve as the chairman of the HBCU for Life Call to Action Committee. I'm a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Gamma Omega chapter, and we welcome you to our third night of our National HBCU Week. Tonight is very fitting because today is National Voter Registration, and we have a very important program that will serve as being very informative for our community this evening. I want to thank Miss Lakeisha Gray for serving as the HBCU Week subcommittee chair for this event tonight. Again, very good topics for us, important topics for us to cover tonight. Voter registration and important tips for the young voter and for all age voters. And then also, from an HBCU standpoint, navigating the college admissions process during COVID. So we're all impacted by these topics tonight. So we hope that you enjoy it, and we're going to follow the program as stated. And so I'm going to introduce Ms. Melanie Davis, who is our co-chair of our committee, and then we will turn it over to Ms. Graves, who will be our facilitator for tonight. Thank you.
Good evening. Like Ms. Day said, my name is Melanie Davis, and I am a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Gamma Omega chapter. I am the co-chair. I am so happy that you decided to join us today. I hope something that is heard or said will benefit you. I hope that you ask your friends to register and vote in this very important election coming up. And I hope that the tips that you received tonight regarding navigating college in this COVID-19 era will be beneficial to you. And again, thank you for joining us this evening. Thank you very much.
I would also like to thank each and every one of you all for joining as well. Everyone that's here being a presenter, thank you all as well. You all are just very amazing for taking the time out of your day to come and share information. So we greatly appreciate that. I won't be long with this greeting because we have so much more in store. And I hope that our audience gets a wonderful pool of resources for tonight. And we look forward to the questions, the comments, and everything that you all will have going forward. So thank you.
Next, we will have our president, Ms. Kimberly Beck, to bring the welcome and the purpose for the program this evening.
Good evening. Welcome on behalf of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated Gamma Omega chapter, the third oldest graduate chapter in our illustrious sisterhood. Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated is the oldest Greek letter organization for African American women, founded in 1908 on the campus of Howard University, a HBCU. And it is a part of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated's mission and legacy to advocate and alleviate problems for girls and women. And we have done that through, over the years, through our programs, through the sharing of our resources, and through our legislative advocacy, which we call connections. And so today it is befitting on National Voter Registration Day that we would hold an event that not only focuses on HBCUs, but on mobilizing folks to go out and get registered to vote, and not just get registered, but to cast your vote so that we can improve life, not just for women, but for all. In 1908, back then, African-American women did not have the right to vote. So we worked very hard to make sure we were a part of the process of getting the right to vote for women and particularly for African American women in the 1960s. And now that we have that right to vote, it is so important that you know how to navigate voting in this difficult COVID-19 pandemic. We want this panel discussion to provide you with insight so that you have all the tools and information you need to go and cast your vote. And not only for you to cast your vote, but for you to inform and educate others. As you are listening tonight, I hope that it will do a couple of things. First, I want you to stay woke. I want you to be woke and aware about the issues that are pertinent to your community, things that you will be voting on. For example, in this upcoming November 3rd election, we will vote on judges and amendments. We will vote on state legislators as well as national legislators. We're not just voting on the president, but we're voting on things that impact us on a daily basis in our communities. Next, I want you to get yoked. One of the things I'm proudest of is that I am yoked to this illustrious sisterhood, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, which keeps me informed on issues that are important to me and to my life and my family and my community. But Alpha Kappa Alpha is not the only organization that you can connect and collaborate with to make sure that we have a collective and impactful voice. There are organizations such as the Urban League, such as NAACP, the League of Women Voters, and many, many more. And so we invite you to stay woke and get yoked, connect with organizations on your campus that will help you to understand the legislative process and the things that you will be voting on. And lastly, it is just to go and vote. It's one thing to get registered, but it is another to make sure that on November 3rd, you cast your vote. Or before, if you're from a community that will allow you to do absentee voting or early voting, that you get your vote in. Your voice matters. I think of voting for me as being a supervisor, because all of those legislators work for me through my tax dollars. There will be no taxation without representation for Kim Beck, because I'm going to go vote to make sure that those who are in office match the values that I have. And even if they're not from the party that I choose, I'm going to hold them accountable through correspondence, through communication, to make sure that they're doing what is best, not just for a party, but for all members of the community. So we invite you to stay woke, get yoked, go vote. I hope that this forum will help you to accomplish all of those things. Again, welcome on behalf of the 391 members of Gamma Omega Chapter and our Ivy Alliance Foundation. We hope that this will be informative for you and that you will share this information with others in the community. Again, good evening.
That's why I don't vote. Voted for Obama back in 2012. I remember that's when I had hope. He was saying, yes, we can. And everybody got less food stamps. And when I turned 21, I was still broke. I'd never vote again. I don't think I ever had a president make my life better. Did it all on my own. Ain't no politician ever do a nice gesture. I don't even know the man's name. I ain't never seen her one time ever. Tell me how she gonna help the city. What I'm supposed to do, write letters? What I'm supposed to do, blame Trump? He ain't never really gave a ain't nobody raised minimum wage. None of these jobs pay enough. I think they just wanna keep us broke, cause they ain't putting nothing in place for us. This how all my people feel, but we gotta learn. We complained enough, let me change it up. Everything I just said, everybody I know think the same way. See, they don't wanna see us vote, and we never do. So we see the same thing, but all our votes really do count, and they'll never really let it show. So now I'm finna break it down, cause if I don't, you would probably never know. First thing first, you know back in middle school when they taught us it was 3 branches of the government. We forgot it when we got older. It's the judicial, the legislative, and executive. But all we know is the executive. That's the mayor or the governor and the president. Now none of them 3 people make no laws, they just be checking them. The laws come to their desk and all they do is say no or yes to it. So when the news station tried to tell us that Barack Obama couldn't put us on, we was all salty at Obama when it was the Congress members all along. We gotta focus on the legislative branch, yeah, they the ones that make the laws. Yeah, they the ones write how much food stamp money you get on the card. But when people that wanted to help us wanted the job, I know they probably lost. Cause we ain't even know their name, we ain't know their face, we ain't know it all. So the Congress or the State House, that's legislative, they make laws. So what we want from the president is what they do, okay y'all? See, they election every 2 years, but we don't ever even go to those. The Congress, they can raise minimum wage, but we ain't even really know it though. So you know how back in 08, when we all voted for Obama, we was all supposed to go back in 2010 and vote for the Congress. Cause they the ones make child support laws, they the ones choose if your kids at school get to eat steak or corn dogs. The State House make the court costs. So if the country failed, then you can't say it's them, it's your fault. Cause y'all ain't know to vote for Congress members that was for y'all. And they don't gotta leave after 4 years, and we just let them sit. See, they don't wanna tell you this, they want you to focus on the president. Now the 3rd branch is the judicial, that's judges. They the reason why John Crawford and Trayvon, they had justice. So when Meek Mill got locked up just for popping willies, we blame the judge and not the city when they let her get voted in, cause they ain't know who to vote against. Imagine life on the other side. Roads better, schools better, everybody get their license back, grocery store food better, custody of your kids back, homeless people get new shelters. If we gon' fix the US, we gotta start with them 2 letters, me and you. Somebody told us that the government wanna keep us broke, but the only reason why those people in the government is cause we ain't vote. And I ain't talking about the president, I'm talking about the ones we ain't know. See, they was gonna try to keep it low, but it's gonna hurt them when they see the polls.
So we didn't do a brief introduction before the video, but we thought that this video would be so important to share because of how, while in a different approach, it broke it down to so much of what we do forget as adults. Like the rapper said, that we learned back in middle school about the 3 branches of government and how we only focus on the executive branch. And, you know, we tend to forget to, after the presidential election, to go back and vote, you know, 2 years later for Congress. A lot of times we forget those things. So we felt like this video was very important to remind us. And I know for a fact, he is right about middle school. My daughter, who's in 4th grade last year, we were studying these things last year. And so from time, you know, we as adults, we tend to forget about those things or think that going back and voting for Senate and just the House of Representatives, that those aren't as important, but they are very important. So one of the main reasons that we wanted to share that as a reminder and a way to connect it to how we live every day versus to the way that we tend to think of things in terms of only coming out and voting for presidential elections. So next, we will have we will transition from that, which was a very good introduction to our topic on census and voter registration. We will have Miss Joan Hubbard. Over to you, Miss Hubbard.
Good evening, and I like that. I like that. That's a nice segue into the first topic of conversation that we have, and that is the census. Because all of this is connected, and you can't do one without the other in order to be successful. So, in talking about the census, the definition is that it is a count of the total population of the nation, and it's how the framers of the Constitution chose to determine the sharing of political power. Now, it's in the Constitution, so it has to happen. And so then one of the reasons that we put so much effort into this count is because it only occurs once every 10 years. So if your family is not counted in 2020, the opportunity will not reoccur until 2030. There are no do-overs. The count is important because of the federal funds that are made available to the communities because of the count and because of the number of representatives available to communities. Some of the things that these federal funds pay for are roads, bridges, schools, and hospitals. The loss of one person in your household in the count equals $1,300 per year, every year for 10 years. Remember I said this is for 10 years. The number of seats in the Federal House of Representatives is based on the population count in the census. 10 years ago, in the 2010 census, we lost a representative in this area. This was a representative that was unable to speak on our behalf in Congress. Not only in Congress as it relates to federal dollars, but as a representative is also expected to speak and lobby in the community for the business decisions in our areas, such as the creation of employment opportunities and economic growth. And I give you an example, a representative, the NGA site that the city was able to get on Jefferson. We were able to get that with the help of representatives in Congress. Because if we didn't have that, it would have gone to Illinois. That was the plan. I know for many people, and especially the young people, the information asked for on the census can feel kind of intrusive. But I want you to know that it is a violation of federal law to release any identifiable information about individuals, households, or businesses to any entity, even law enforcement. And that violation comes with a penalty of up to $250,000 and or 5 years in prison. Now that I've talked about the census on the federal level, the results are also used by state and local levels. Business decisions are made where to locate a grocery store, a movie theater, a shopping mall, anything based on the population level. The census will also be used by state and local leaders to redraw state and local representative boundaries. And this leads me into the topic of gerrymandering. Gerrymandering is the practice intended to establish an unfair political advantage for a particular party or group by manipulating district boundaries. In 2018, Gamma Omega members joined several other community organizations to pass legislation called Clean Missouri. This legislation passed statewide with 62% of the vote, and it also passed in every district in the state. The idea was to ensure that legislative boundaries accurately reflected the demographic and political makeup of the state. However, in order to continue the old system, our state legislators have placed this issue back on the November ballot as Amendment 3. Their reasoning was that they were not convinced that the voters knew what they were doing when they passed the legislation in 2018. So it's back on the ballot as Amendment number 3, intended to undo what was agreed to in 2018. Well, needless to say, Gamma Omega has taken the position that we're asking everyone to vote no on Amendment 3. We want to stay with what we had. Today is National Voter Registration Day. And we have joined other organizations in using this day to stress the importance of voter registration. If you do not register, you cannot vote. The Missouri deadline for registration is October 7th. Whether you have moved across the country or down the street or changed your name, update your voter registration. If you will be 18 by November 3rd, you may register to vote. And then that gets us to, we follow on into voting. I don't know if you know or not, but absentee voting at several sites in both the city and the county started today. I did see on the news some lines for people lined up to submit their ballots. Check with your local election board for the details and share this information with your family and friends. You need to make sure that your family and friends also vote. A large turnout is expected, and so everyone is asked to plan their vote. Finally, poll workers are needed. We expect a heavy turnout of voters for this upcoming election. There is the opportunity to make a little bit of money as a poll worker. They are needed. Check with your election board website for details. And I thank you for having me. And you guys have any questions, or what's my next step?
Yes, ma'am, I do. So I remember you informed me that people can also go to Gamma Omega's page to register to vote.
That is correct. That is correct. You can go to Gamma Omega's website and register to vote that way also.
Right on.
But please register and then vote.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that information. We are going to get started with our HBCU panel and talk about navigating college through COVID-19, which is one of the topics that is very near and dear to my heart. I am an adjunct professor over at Harris-Stowe State University, and I'm also the director of a TRIO program, TRIO Upward Bound, for the Higher Education Consortium of Metropolitan St. Louis, and we service 9th through 12th graders in the St. Louis Public School District. And one of the most important things that I saw with our students from leaving campus to registering this year is a lot of hesitation and anxiety with the topic of COVID in college. And so one of the reasons why it is very important that we get this information is so that students understand what it is that will be required of them, understand what it is that the campuses are offering, and also what they will be requiring in terms of COVID testing, COVID PPE equipment, and then they can also navigate themselves going forward. So we have a bunch of representatives here that I have the pleasure of speaking with, some that I've also worked with throughout my career in TRIO. And without further ado, I will go and give the introduction of everyone. I'll state your name, and then you can give us a 2-minute introduction of yourself. And so first I have Ms. Takara Taylor with Harris-Stowe State University.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Ms. Takara Taylor. I serve as a freshman international admissions counselor at Harris-Stowe State University. I graduated from Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville in 2016 with my bachelor's of science in exercise science, and actually started working with College Bound St. Louis, and it changed my whole trajectory. So now I am in higher ed. I love it. I don't want to turn back, and I love the college access realm. So thank you for having me today.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Ms. Toy Evans with Maryville University.
Hello, how are you doing? I'm a graduate of Harris-Stowe State University. So hi to Taylor, Miss Taylor. But I currently work at Maryville University in student services. I service all type of student populations all across campus, from online to on-campus students. And I also help out with answering questions regarding financial aid, student accounts, admissions questions sometimes when it comes down to financial aid between like scholarships and grants, loan limits and things like that. So I'm very passionate about helping the minority students get their way into college, because sometimes it can be hard if they don't have any guidance. So I was a person that didn't have guidance. So I kind of take those students under my wing and I try to treat them a little special so that I can help them understand what they're doing and how to move forward throughout their college experience.
Thank you so much, Ms. Evans. Next, we have Ms. Kat Laura with the University of Central Missouri.
Hello, everybody. So I am from Kansas City. I graduated from UMKC with a Bachelor's of Criminal Justice and Criminology. My trajectory also changed when I served for AmeriCorps' Missouri College Advising Corps for 3 years in Independence, Missouri. So it's near and dear in my heart also to serve students that are underrepresented. And so just that college access and helping them with financial aid and just finding the right fit for them is just near and dear to my heart. So as of right now, I am in college or in the admissions representative position for UCM. And so just helping students just be admitted into UCM is where I'm at right now. And of course, I am the rep for the St. Louis area. So of course, I love that I'm in the St. Louis area. So that is me.
Thank you so much, Ms. Laura. Next, we have Ms. Gabrielle Ross. She is a Howard alumni and she works with BJC.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Gabrielle Ross. I'm a Howard University alum, graduated in 2015. I'm currently pursuing my MBA at Lindenwood, so I'm still a student. I'm kind of going through this process like everyone else. I'm excited to join you all and share a little bit of what I have learned along the way and the things I'm still learning throughout this whole COVID scenario, as well as just being in school. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ross. Next, we have Ms. Michaela Patterson. She's a student at Harris-Stowe State University.
Hello, everyone. My name is Michaela Patterson. I am currently a sophomore at Harris-Stowe State University. My major is biology/nurse, and I'm studying to become a nurse practitioner. And I'm excited to be here today to share my experiences with you guys of what I'm going through with this COVID-19. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Ms. Patterson. Next, we have Ms. Shantasia Anderson. She's a student at Southeast Missouri State University. Uh-oh.
Sorry. Okay. Hi, my name is Shantasia Anderson. I do go to Southeast Missouri State class before I graduate. I'm not from you, and what we could do better as well. So.
Thank you so much, Ms. Anderson. Next, we have Mr. Stephen Anderson, who is the parent of Ms. Shantasia Anderson.
Good evening. My name is, again, she already said, Stephen Anderson. I currently work with St. Louis Public Schools as a student recruiter, but I have worked in higher education for majority of my professional career. I have worked at Gear Up at University of Missouri St. Louis for about 4 or 5 years. Also, I have worked in TRIO for 4 or 5 years as well as a TRIO advisor. And I'm also a former TRIO student myself. So that's just a little bit of my background as far as my undergrad and also my professional work.
Thank you so much, Mr. Anderson. And our last panelist is Ms. Deanna Ferguson. She is from St. Louis University, and she is also a lawyer.
Hi, everyone. My name is Deanna Ferguson. I went to St. Louis University for undergrad. I got my degree in psychology, African American studies, and pre-law. I was also a part of the TRIO program for all of my years in undergraduate, and they really helped me get through college. And also, while I was at SLU, I became a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. So after I graduated from SLU, I went on to Wash U Law, and I just graduated this year. So if you all have any questions about that, please let me know. I also wanted to say that voting is very serious. So if you're not registered to vote, please register to vote. And thanks for having me here.
Thank you so much, Ms. Ferguson. And so as you all have heard, our panelists have a variety of backgrounds. So even if there's a parent or a student or someone representing one university, we all have the HBCU experience within us. And we're all very, very dedicated and motivated to providing as much support for every student that is out there. And so without further ado, I will go and ask a couple of questions. And first, I'll start with our students. I would like to know, how has social life changed with switching to virtual options, given COVID-19 and being in school?
I can go.
Okay.
So for me, dealing with COVID and transitioning out of an in-class type of setting, it was kind of just really overwhelming because I had 18 credits at the time, and it stopped me from being able to really section out the time to study for each class. I had to consistently email my teachers. I had to consistently stay on top of myself as well, being at home and being comfortable, having to deal with homework, having to deal with prepping for tests. And the teachers did understand, but they were very set on deadlines and making sure that we had everything that we needed in order to take a test, instead of supporting us when we were at home and making sure that we weren't sick, or making that everyone was taken care of, or if we needed any other resources, especially because I work with learning assistants with TRIO as well, but we work with tutoring, and a lot of students also weren't going to tutoring either. And that was a really hard transition for other students to get tutored online and not have that, close feeling.
Thank you so much, Ms. Patterson. Would you like to also give us information as well?
Yes, I would like to. For me, I'm a visual learner, so when it had switched from visual to like online and everything, it was kind of a hard transition because I'm not used to this. I'm used to being hands-on in class all the time, talking to teachers face to face. But now I got to email them constantly back and forth. Sometimes I get like long responses, but it's just like it just takes time and it's just hard to understand because I'm used to being in the classroom all the time. So that's really kind of hard.
No, I understand. Thank you so much for that. Ms. Ross, could you give us information from the graduate student perspective?
Yes, I'm definitely for on-campus learning versus online, but due to the situation, we just don't have a choice. It kind of forces you to communicate more with your professors, in my case at least, communicate more with your professors and your classmates, because you're not getting that in-class experience where someone asks a question and it kind of helps you with the question you may have had as well. So it kind of forces you to be more interactive on that level, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just definitely different.
Thank you so much. And I'll also ask Ms. Ferguson, because you just graduated as well, how was that for you as well?
It was very difficult, especially with me being in the law school and with it being my last year. I did a lot of work while I worked with the community. I worked with legal services for a little while for a clerkship program. So a lot of my job was to talk to parents and talk to students. And I know a lot of my classes, I had to be one-on-one or in person. So when we switched over to using Zoom, it was sort of a rocky transition because everyone was trying to figure out what to do. How do we host meetings? And so it was very difficult. And then especially with graduation, that was one of probably be my last graduation. So just to not be able to experience that with my classmates and my teachers, it was very difficult.
Thank you so much for sharing. So I will go to our next question, which is more for our advisors. And that question is, what are some of the COVID-19 restrictions on or changes that are on campus? Like, do you have any hand washing stations, checkpoints, testing options, or requirements?
So for UCM, we don't have any checkpoints when it comes to hand washing stations. All of our buildings have hand sanitizing dispensers. So there's signs, like red signs saying, "Hey, stop, be mindful and hand sanitize sanitize your hands." So and of course, giving them the reminder, like, put your mask on, and just giving them that reminder, like, it is mandated by the um, since we're in a small town, it is just mandated by not only the university, but by the town to, have your mask on as of right now. So just giving the students the reminder and the faculty to not only hand sanitize, but also to wear their face masks. So that's just giving them that reminder. So as of right now, that's what UCM is having right now. As far as test options, UCM has gone full test optional. So our GPA has dropped when it comes to admissions process. So our test optional is, so that GPA, they had to have at least a 3.25 to be admitted into UCM. So that was a 3.5. So students are taking advantage of that when it comes to applying to UCM. And so I know for the Missouri students, that has really helped them when it comes to applying, since they have been canceling those tests or those ACT dates. I know that was a huge deal this past summer, and it continues to be a huge deal. I know that students are experiencing somewhat of anxiety and distress in general because of that, and not having, as seniors, a lot of seniors are not having those test scores to apply to universities or to colleges as of right now. And a lot of the times in the previous years, as of right now, students are ready to go and to apply with those test scores. So as of right now, UCM is test optional.
Thank you so much. Ms. Taylor, could you give us some updates in regards to Harris-Stowe's campus with dealing with COVID restrictions, and then any changes also in admission?
I sure can. So Harris-Stowe has temperature check stations at every entrance of every building, which is kind of cool because it kind of built in a student worker position for a lot of our students. So extra income for them, making sure our students are safe as well. We also have hand sanitizer stations. Of course, masks are mandated through the city of St. Louis. So they can't come on campus without masks, obviously. As far as test optional, Harris-Stowe has gone test optional for the 2021-2022 academic year. What that means is that if you haven't taken the test or the ACT or SAT, we will just ask for 2 letters of recommendation, a personal statement or a resume, and then any kind of extracurricular activities that students have taken throughout their years in high school or volunteer work. We have also mandated that all of our residence halls are single suites only, so they won't have any roommates, which is kind of cool for students, but it's kind of lonely too. But those are our changes that we have have taken place at Harris-Stowe amidst COVID.
Thank you so much for that information. And then I will hop on over to Ms. Evans, if you can also share some information with your campus as well.
Maryville has moved to a completely new design since they are very technology focused. We have moved over to touchless check-ins, since the area that a lot of students come in that we service is considered the visitor center. They come in for questions about all types of things. So instead of them using the iPads to type in their name, we have implemented QR codes so that they can scan the QR code to take a health screening. Everyone that comes on campus has to take a health screening or security's coming for you. And then we also have the same thing that goes out for faculty, staff, and all students every single day, Monday through Friday, even on the weekends. There's a mandatory health screening, and you're asked a series of questions so that they can keep track of all data for any student that has been at risk for COVID or that has had any type of symptoms of COVID. And then you have to be cleared to be able to come on campus. Even if you're not working on campus, as I've been at home. Yesterday, I forgot to do the survey because I took off and I got a nasty gram. So they're staying on the data for that. When it comes down to the dining halls, they've done all online ordering. You can come to a line and pick up your food that is already prepackaged from the kitchen. There's no walking through and like hovering over the salad bar, anything like that. All of our students have single suites. We've handed out masks to every single student that is on campus, and we have commuter stations that they are also able to come and pick up hand sanitizers and masks that is Maryville branded. And they've also implemented a new form of liaisons. I wouldn't call them security, but they do look very similar, but they are more friendly in appearance, and they are the ones that come to coax students into either leaving campus or wearing their mask and following safety procedures if they refuse to do so. So that is some of the things that Maryville has done. Oh, and because we're still adamant about our student body, they have made sure that they have multiple, multiple hotel levels and areas close to the school. So students get shuttled in and they have a full hotel suite to themselves for the 13 weeks on campus, along with the other students that's on campus on our in our dorms. And we've made one dorm completely a COVID quarantine dorm. So if they're having any symptoms and they can't go home, one dorm is specifically detailed for quarantine. So I don't have as much for admissions for as what is the GPA and admissions entry. So that portion I can't give, but for as everything else on campus, I've worked very closely with monitoring those numbers for those and answering questions for parents.
Thank you so much. And I'm so glad you said that, Ms. Evans, because my next question was going to be, in regards to financial aid. And so in regards to financial aid, have you seen any changes regarding the cost of attendance, or given that, things are different, do you see things in terms of grants changing, scholarship awards changing in terms of being a lot more to entice students to come, or have they remained the same?
So Maryville, I believe, I can't remember if it's 3% or 5%. They have actually decreased, they've given a tuition decrease for this academic year. So moving forward, they've actually lowered their tuition. On-campus students and online students, of course, have different tuition rates. But a lot of our on-campus students have, for lack of better terms, kind of has some hurdles because a lot of students have sports scholarships, full ride scholarships for sports. And if their team is not playing or if their sport was pulled, then they, are ineligible for that scholarship. So the school has been able to pick up other endowments to dish out to students to help them out. A lot of our students also, they are more privileged to sort of speak because they have a lot of parents that are able to step in with their Parent Plus loan, but with the students not being able to cover their full balance with aid, we have also implemented payment plans, extensions for them, and raised the threshold so that they would not get a hold on their account due to, unpaid financial bills, so that they can move forward and hopefully bounce back when COVID is over. A lot of the things that we saw was during when CARES Act was being given out. And, there were different stipulations on who can receive them. On-campus students can receive them. They have to be traditional students, and they had up to the maximum of $1,000. But, other students were able to write in and let us know that they still needed help. And they were able to still try to pull funds from other endowments to offer student scholarships. We had a lot of donors that really wanted the students to excel, so they were able to push forward additional funding. So our financial aid team combed through those students to find out who was in need over the others.
Thank you so much. And I'll also ask the same question to Ms. Laura and Ms. Taylor with Harris-Stowe and UCM. Have you seen any changes in regards to the cost of attendance and scholarships to entice students to come to you all's university?
So when it comes to the cost of attendance, nothing has changed as of right now. So there has been talk about it changing because of online. So everything is just kind of in the air as of right now. For students that are attending UCM based off of like sports scholarships, so like football players and track runners and things like that. So those incoming freshmen that just arrived, they were able to keep the scholarships because of what happened. So like I said, everything is still kind of in the air with the freshmen of 2021. So depending on what happens with the incoming freshmen this next coming year, that'll all depend on that. I also wanted to mention, and I didn't mention it before, but also with the dorms, UCM was also doing the single one person to the dorm. So with the application fees, since we do charge for that, they had cut the cost in half, so students were able to afford it, since that was kind of a burden for a lot of families at the time. So that kind of helped out a lot of the families, and they will continue to do that if need be for families.
Thank you so much. Ms. Taylor, would you also like to comment as well?
Yes, so pretty similar. Harris-Stowe has not changed as far as tuition, but we are reworking our scholarships. So hopefully that information will be out soon so that we can start recruiting for our scholarships. But we have added states to our Hornet Rate Scholarship, which allows particular states that are not Missouri to receive basically in-state tuition. So it includes states like Texas, Arkansas, Mississippi now. As far as, I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought there. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. We haven't changed any tuition rates or anything. So I know with the CARES Act, that was kind of a federal thing. So it hasn't changed anything for Harris-Stowe.
Thank you so much for that information. The next question I have is more for our parents. And my question is, what were and what are some of your concerns with your student being in college during COVID? And how did you deal with them specifically when your student was on campus and you found out that, hey, the campus is closing, and then also with your student being a virtual learner as well? And that's for Mr. Anderson.
When, of course, I was very nervous when I found out, like everybody else with the COVID-19. With close communication with my daughter, I think that kind of helped me out a lot, especially, and y'all remember the times where we didn't really know what it was. Was it airborne? Was it already in us already to pass on the virus? So I feel like with the relationship that I have with my daughter and understanding that I trust her judgment on a day-to-day, kind of helped me ease a lot of my fears, what was going on down in school. I felt like the communication helped me ease a lot of anxiety that kind of, because I was only focused on what was going on in the news. And then with my conversation with my daughter, actually with her going to school and some of the things that Southeast was doing to the kind of plan to dismiss a lot of the classes and making sure that the students go home before the news broke it out, I felt kind of better. And so now I'm kind of wondering, now I'm still kind of iffy about when she do return. And I'm hearing what Harris-Stowe is doing and Kansas City is doing, that they will follow the safety guidelines, because from my colleagues who have they kids in college, they are still not following the safety guidelines, and they on campus. So my daughter, she's home. So I'm worried that when she gets back, that students will still going to be partying. There's not going to be a lot of practice, social distancing. I don't understand on campus, but off campus is really where a lot of these things will happen. And I don't want my daughter to be in a study group with a group of students who been partying the whole weekend, expose her, and then she come back and expose me. So I don't know how the university is really going to adapt to the social life of college students in this type of climate. So I'm scared, on that end. At the same time, I got to worry about myself because of my job working in the community. So I won't get her sick. So if she do go back to school, she won't give it to somebody else. So it's kind of twofold. So I really don't know. I'm very optimistic. We got these vaccines, which, I'm really not, too happy about. And I'm afraid that the colleges or universities are going to force parents to sign these waivers, so they won't be reliable of these vaccines. And if they get the COVID-19, so I really, to answer your question, I'm very optimistic and fearful for my daughter to go back in January. I'm thinking that it's going to happen in January. She probably can speak more on it, but I think about it every single day because I'm hearing just in the sports world that some of my colleagues have to sign some waivers that the university is presenting to them, so the university won't be reliable for them contracting the virus. So I'm just, again, I'm in communication with my daughter. She's giving me updates on what Southeast is doing. And we're going to have a talk if I do not agree on what they have planned when the students actually return in full capacity.
Thank you so much for that information, Mr. Anderson. I think it's very important that we have a parent perspective, a realistic perspective, because this is something that we're dealing with day to day, and it's brand new. We don't have guidelines or anything that we can go back and look at. We are managing it as it comes every single second. So I thank you so much for sharing that information and being vulnerable enough with us to share that information, so that parents out there can not feel alone in this process. The next question I have is more specific for our students. How do you feel in regards to how do you feel in regards to COVID? What are some of your concerns? We've heard from Mr. Anderson, but in terms of a student perspective, what are some of the concerns you have about, one, when it is time to return back to campus, and from what it is that you've heard from some of the universities out there, what are you anticipating? What are you anxious for? Or what might be some of the things that you're like, I don't think that I'm going to be comfortable for that. So that would make a decision as to remain virtual or to go back to campus.
Well, for me, I personally decided to take my last class virtually. Southeast actually sent out this packet explaining what some of our guidelines were, but they can't control, the social aspect or anything. But I feel like things should be not normal, but should be more regulated by the time I go back in January and for grad school. And I'm not really too concerned because I'm home now and I can take care of myself and I know how to go about the world. But going back to school hasn't been too much of a hassle for me just because I'm not there on campus. I'm 2 hours away. I can, just make sure that I'm doing what I have to do to make sure I stay healthy. I can, only let my friends know, be safe, or, go by the guidelines or in everything. I didn't want to sit in class and wear a mask. I just wanted to just sit home. I'd rather not breathe in a mask for, an hour and a half or 50 minutes and then, just have to go back to my apartment or go back to my room. I wouldn't want to do that. So, yeah.
I'll go. So I'm taking my final 2 courses now, and they are both online. So it's not that classroom situation that I'm concerned about, but more so of the commencement, which we are having November 20th. So I am happy that as of right now, at least, we are still scheduled to have a commencement ceremony, but it's just going to be interesting to see how that is played out. They already have a limit on the amount of guests that we can bring. So I'm just, I guess, trying to figure out how that's going to look for me.
I'm also a student at UCM, and with COVID, there was a huge conversation since I'm in the counseling program at UCM in the master's level. And because it's counseling, we're taking a group class, which it's supposed to be in person. So within this class, we're having the conversation of how it's taking away of the learning experience. So we're kind of just bummed out as the fact that we're not getting that in hands, or that, experience that we are really needing as counselors, getting ready to go into the field that we need, that experience that counselors really need to, really be able to perform and to work with students, or be in the clinical mental health field. And so we were kind of looking at the bright side, saying, if this is how things are going to be from now on, or it's not, just doing things virtually. If, virtual counseling is going to be a thing from now on, we're going to have that experience of how we are able to counsel virtually. So we were kind of looking at things through the bright side and just being safe, obviously, because of not being around people in COVID. So I guess we're just trying to look at things through the bright side. I guess that's what we can do because of COVID. So.
Thank you so much, Ms. Laura. I also have a question for Ms. Ferguson, because I know that you also, you just graduated and you took your bar as well. So can you give us information as to how that was navigating it through COVID?
It was extremely difficult. So the positive side of it is there was less temptations because everyone is in the house. I started studying, a lot of my friends, we started studying immediately after what would have been our graduation day. And I was taking the Missouri bar. So for us, it was an area of extreme certainty, especially with being in the legal field and we're working with licenses. So we had our jobs on the line. We were trying to figure out, will we even be taking the bar? So I took the bar at the end of July. And I passed. I just got my results back this week. But to have everyone trying to figure out when they're going to take the bar, I still have friends who haven't taken it yet, and they don't know when it will happen, or they're trying to figure out what they're going to do. For example, Washington, it went from a UBE state to you just being able to be barred in Washington. So it's just an area of extreme uncertainty. For the testing environment itself, the exam was 12 hours, so I had to have a mask on for 12 hours. It was 2 days, 6 hours apiece. And everyone trying to figure out how to navigate COVID, they had to think about timing. Students had to be in rooms at a particular time. So mentally, physically, emotionally, it was draining taking the bar. And so I can see how it can be very difficult in the classroom as well if you're wearing a mask and still trying to retain information.
Thank you so much for that perspective. I appreciate that so much because we have students that are enrolling in college. They are doing the clinicals, as Ms. Laura mentioned, but also after they finish that, not just clinicals, but after they finish their instruction, they do have those exams to take, whether it's the bar, MCAT, and other, exams that are out there. We really don't think about those. We didn't really think about those beforehand because it's like, oh, when you finish, you just go and take them. But now it's like, I couldn't even imagine having a mask on for 6 hours one day and then knowing you're going to have to go and do the exact same thing. Another, along with the pressure of taking the bar itself. So once again, congratulations as well. And thank you for that information. All right, so we will continue. And this question is really for everyone. Given everything that we've said, what are some tips for preparing for college during a pandemic that you feel high school students should be aware of?
One of the things that I will say is don't get discouraged. You know what your end goal is, you know what you want to do. And I know with virtual learning, I know I'm tutoring with the TRIO program right now, and I'm helping tutor middle school students. And it's very difficult for them because they have a lot of questions and they're working virtually with the classroom. So if you're still in school, don't be discouraged. If you want, you reach out to teachers, they're there to help.
As cliche as it may sound, I'm gonna say communication is key. There is a person behind a screen that's doing the job for a reason. So if it's an admissions counselor, if it's somebody in TRIO, if it's a college advisor, a counselor, somebody is willing to help you to get through and the process of something. So I will definitely just advise them to communicate with somebody to help them, to reach out, to speak out, to ask for help, for sure. We are definitely here to help.
To add to what she just said, always make sure you read as much as you can. So when the communications that they send out are being sent out, actually read it. And then if you're confused about it, read it one more time and then process what you're reading and then ask for help. She just said there is counselors and everyone is always able to help because there's someone there for you. But if you fail to keep on top of your electronic communications, because now a lot of things are going through email because you can't just walk up to a desk or walk up to an office. So you tend to lose a lot of information because if they give you an email, check that email. If they tell you this is your logins, check those logins, because you can let a lot slip through the crack by just saying, oh, I didn't know, but you went 2-3 weeks and never checked an email. So please at least take a glance at it and then ask additional questions, but just at least make sure you take note of the fact that they are sending notifications to you.
And I'll add, along with reaching out with counselors and advisors, also try to reach out to alumni associations within your area. I'm a member of Howard University Alumni Association here, of course. Sometimes I feel like we can scare ourselves more than what we need to be scared of. So maybe talking to current students or people that are already in the environment might help lessen certain fears that you're going through.
Can I also interject with that Howard Alumni Association, because I too am a Howard graduate? We do a lot of things with our high school students, and we have a page called HUAC. We do picnics, we do Christmas parties, which will more than likely be via Zoom this year, but we too have scholarships available for students while they're on campus. And a lot of the alumni associations, not just for Howard, but HBCUs, PWIs, they have alumni associations. Make sure that students, this is the advice for students, make sure that you all are tapping into those alumni associations while you are also getting your college admission process done as well. And like I said, I will interject, Howard University Alumni Association was one of the pivotal things for me being a St. Louis public school graduate as well. I got introduced to HUAC in my sophomore year of being at Soda in high school. And if it wasn't for them with the amount of resources and support, I don't think that I would have been able to make it through Howard, because Howard is very rigorous, and then also go to graduate school and fulfill one of my lifelong dreams of being a professor now.
Yes, definitely makes the transition a lot more smoother if you know people already in your own city than going to a university.
I think it's also important to note, not just for our students, but taking care of your mental health. We are in the middle of a pandemic. So I'm sure everybody is on edge. Nobody knows what's going on, not even our administration. So it's important just to make sure that you are taking care of your mental health, because at the end of the day, if you are not okay, your studies and your education and your grades are not going to be okay. I know for like Harris Stowe students, Dr. Cami is our Director of Counseling Services, and she's doing both in-person appointments and virtual. So if it's something that is needed, I highly encourage students to take advantage of that. And I'm sure there are other services that are similar on different campuses. So just making sure that you are okay, because this is real out here. 2020 is really trying to take us out. So yes, make sure you're taking care of yourself.
Thank you so much. Well, we have about 10 more minutes of questions, and then we're going to see if our audience have questions as well. So I think we have about 2 more, and then we will cut to our audience. And right when you were talking about, Ms. Taylor, about your services, I do have a question for that. So how can students access campus resources virtually, not just counseling, but academic support, career services, and such, given that, we're not on campus anymore? So what's the best way, or what is your advice? And students, you can also answer as well. What is your advice for accessing those campus resources virtually?
So for Harris Stowe, our campus resources are still allowing students to meet in person. So for example, our Academic Resource Center is still having like tutoring sessions. They have their peer and professional tutors that are available via Zoom. And you just have to make an appointment should you like to visit them in person. Same with our athletics. Our teams are still playing their conference teams. So they're still having practices. Like our soccer team just had a game last Wednesday. But most of our campus services are still available in person. You would just have to make an appointment. But even off campus, if there are different programs or organizations that are offering different academic supports or personal supports, I highly encourage students to take part, like such as webinars or different Zoom conferences, but it's very helpful. So definitely take advantage.
Yes, I would like to add for Southeast, I know that virtually we have our tutoring services via Zoom as well. You can sign up through our website, and you will get placed with a tutor. And then from there on, you'll have a tutoring session every day during that time. I'm not sure if they're still doing in person. I feel like you'll probably have to schedule an appointment to meet with any of the people, but I'm sure it's an option. But they are trying to lean more towards Zoom.
Thank you so much for the information. Would anyone else like to interject as well?
Yes, for UCM, the same for current students. If you are wanting tutoring or any counseling services, they do suggest that you reach out and set up an appointment. For incoming freshmen, if you are needing any services, or if you are wanting to set, like we are doing on-campus tours, and we do have virtual tours as well. We do just suggest that you reach out to your rep. So depending on where you're coming from and on the map, you have your own rep, of course, counselor. So we just suggest that you just keep in contact. But when it comes to on-campus tours, we do them either individual or in small groups, like very small groups. So we are still allowing on in-person tours.
All right, thanks so much. My next question is more specific to class structure. And so I would like our students to, I know that we've switched over to virtual learning, but I know that there are still some students, as myself, who prefer virtual learning over in-person learning. So I know we've said, Zoom has been very influential, and then also in-person switching has been a little bit difficult. But if you could share some of the benefits to virtual learning, that would be awesome.
For me, a benefit to virtual learning is it's just more flexibility. So more flexibility on completing your assignments when you want to, kind of. You still have that deadline, but it's more flexibility in that regard, and also no commute. So that was one of my favorite things of not having to drive all the way to St. Charles for Lindenwood.
I think for me, being able to change location when I want to has been very helpful. If I want to be at the, well, not the library, but if I want to be at a certain location, I can be there instead of being at home. I would like to be in class, but virtually my teachers are a little bit more understanding, knowing that a lot of us are visual learners. They are always sending out resources. And I think that's been more helpful just because I know that they are trying to make it as easy as possible for us to retain the information. So I think that is a big upside than learning in person.
And I am thinking on the positive side. So I think a benefit of doing virtual is that we are not being contaminated in any way due to the pandemic. So although we get to continue and we are, I am thankful that I can continue my education while still have the ability to be or have the technology to do so. So I think that is an upside to all of the Zooms and being able to have it on our class on Zoom. So that is an upside, is that we have, the ability to have class on Zoom and staying safe, of course.
I think that another upside is that, we're breaking new grounds. This is something that none of us have ever experienced before, and we're this technology generation. So we're able to share our ideas to make our fields better. I know someone mentioned counseling, and now that they're doing virtual counseling, it's another barrier that they have to take, but they're able to maybe reach more people. So there is a bright side to this.
Thank you so much for the information. Now we're going to switch to our audience questions. And the first question I see is from Miss Angie Hayes, and this is for the students. How are you managing classes now that this is technically your second semester virtually?
I think for me, I'm able to better organize my day. I know exactly when I need to be prepared for class. I know that everything needs to be written down in my planner. And I know to check all my, like if you have Banner or Blackboard or Moodle, to make sure I'm checking that every day. And it's not just, once a day, it's in the morning, in the middle of the day, and at night, because things are always changing and deadlines are always being pushed. So
Ms. Anderson, you cut out.
I need to stay on top of as well. In classes. Oh, I'm sorry. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. But yes, it's just me being on top of time management and writing everything down so that I'm on top of my deadlines and everything.
And sorry. Somebody going?
I was gonna go. You can. I'll go. For me, it's helping me because it gets me more focused. Because when I'm in school, I was less focused because all the activities going around. But for me, I'm more focused. I'm more like reading my emails every day. Seeing I got the stuff on my HSFU. We see like what's the due dates and everything. We see like what's turned in and everything. So it's more beneficial to me.
And to kind of add to that, as I mentioned, the flexibility piece when it comes to virtual learning, but for me at least, the responsibility has become higher as well, because no one is really checking on you necessarily. And you're also having to teach yourself a lot of the material. Some people or some universities may be fortunate enough to have those like online lectures. I don't have that. So I'm essentially teaching myself a lot of the material. So yes, I have the flexibility, but I'm also having so much more responsibility that comes along with that.
Thank you so much for sharing. I'll also share as a from the teacher standpoint, it has been very difficult just with managing classes and then also working with students who are trying their best to learn material. But as you mentioned, Ms. Ross, it's just difficult because you're used to being in person, and some of the examples and applications are better in person. We've worked with students having whiteboards so that they can write it down, and I myself can write it down as well. But another thing that I found to be very concerning is the level of expectation when it comes to my university with being lenient. And so last semester, students were we got an email from the department saying that we had a curve that we could go by. And so I'm kind of hoping that might be the same thing for this particular semester as well. And I say that for those students who are juniors and seniors in those higher level courses where it's more practical, it's more analytical, and students have to put more emphasis on what they're doing, but it would be a lot better for them if they were on campus. And so, with that being said, I'm going to go to our next question, which is from Ms. Kimberly Beck. And she said, what political issues are important to you now that you are a student? Has your focus on these issues changed as a result of COVID or some other issues? And then second, are you registered to vote? And I can repeat the question again if you'd like for me to.
I am registered to vote. I have definitely changed my views politically just because now that you have the news telling you information and you have social media telling you information, it's important for you to learn the information for yourself. And you have to do research instead of letting people spoon feed you the information, and being able to distinguish, what topics, you should really be getting into, especially as a student, because a lot of these things that's being put into place will affect us, a lot faster than we think it will, or, it's in our backyard. It's not just across the line, or it's not just across overseas, it's here too. And we have to be very aware of what is happening around us, and not just, being on social media or being one track minded. We have to be everywhere, just educating ourselves.
I am registered to vote. A key political issue that I've seen that I have always cared about was student funding, but now more than ever, you see that there is an issue, especially when it comes to public schools. I know when COVID first hit, there was families with multiple students in the household and they were all sharing one device. So to have students have the resources they need to succeed is important to me, coming from St. Louis Public Schools. So I do think now, and I've always thought that school funding is very important.
Okay. So for me, I am registered to vote, by the way. And so for me, it's like we're forced to like grow up fast, because like now everything is going on. We're forced to like hear about from the news, social media, like she said. We are forced to hear everything, so we got to stay focused. And it's like we're forced to grow up, so it's the real world now. So it's just like, wow, it's just like we're learning more stuff like that our parents went through, and so now it's just like it's eye opening for me.
I will ask that our last, I'm gonna, be privy to this, but I will ask for our last comment to come from Mr. Anderson, because I know that he and I work in the St. Louis Public School District. And as Ms. Ferguson was mentioning, there's a lot of changes in regards to the to virtual learning, but also we have to pay attention to the makeup of student households. And so normally, and I can say from my work in TRIO and working with students in the St. Louis Public School District, and it could be any school district, we're used to seeing our students. We're used to laying eyes on them. And so if it's something that's going on, we see it, we know it, we'll say, hey, baby, let's sit down, let's talk about it. But we can't see them anymore. And so we have schools like Sumner, Vashon, Roosevelt, where you hear a lot of things on the news that are not necessarily positive. And we, in terms of TRIO, but just in terms of resources, and as all of our presenters are here as well, we have worked so hard to create a nest for those schools, but it's difficult as you have one device for a household, or you have a household with a lot of background in it. And so those students still have the same expectations of learning. And so I would like to know, and I also have the information too, but from Mr. Anderson as well, because you do work for the district, what are some of the things that the district is doing to better support and better help those students? And also, if you can share information, if you have it, how is the district also preparing those students for college, even in middle school, even in elementary school, and in high school specifically, given everything that's going on, and given that we know what households are made up of, and with St. Louis Public School District.
Okay. Well, that last question, what are they doing with the students as far as college? I can't really comment on that because I don't work in that realm no more. But I can talk about in the recruitment department of the influx of phone calls regarding internet hotspot. I can honestly say that our tech team is been A1. They've been stepping up when it comes to troubleshooting over the phone or either through email, trying to help out students and teachers with their internet connection, because that has been a big deal. Also, a lot of the teachers and support staff have been all hands on deck throughout this whole process, just making sure that the students have that extra help that they need at home. So I can attest to that of some of the responses that we've been getting downtown at the board where I work at. And with that, just overall, just the camaraderie within the district of sharing resources with schools, with staff, amongst ourselves, just to rally around students. Our student transition department that's helping out parents who lost home and don't have food during these times. Just being there and making sure that they connect with the right people. That's been helpful, and hopefully in a couple of weeks we will know if we could return back to the classroom with the numbers going down. So overall, we have been just been on pins and needles, just making sure that we are there for the students and staff in our district.
Thank you so much for that information. And I just wanted to reiterate that resources, support is one of the things that I wanted to make sure that was emphasized. Another thing that I think is also very phenomenal is that we're supporting school districts in the work that we do right now. I know Gamma Omega is always sharing resources regarding COVID-19 on our Facebook page, Instagram, and any way that we can, word of mouth, to let everyone know where resources are, where COVID testing is, where you can get food and such. And I personally make sure that I'm looking at those resources and sharing them with my students in our TRIO program, but just in general. And so with that being said, I want to just encourage our audience. Oh, I'm sorry. We also have one more person that would like to speak, but also I'd like to encourage our audience to frequent our page as much as possible for the resources that are out there. And please, if you have any questions, our names are on here. Send us messages through, well, you can send me messages through Facebook. I'll speak for myself. And I am more than happy to answer questions and also be a resource of support as well. But I wanted to take just a few seconds to acknowledge Miss Iris Tabb. She is the Director of Admissions at Harris-Stowe State University. And Miss Tabb, if you would like to share information, please feel free to do so.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to quickly speak to everyone. And I do apologize for being tardy and coming in just a little bit late as I was on other calls this evening. But we are excited specifically for the students that are in the St. Louis area, in that we have selected 20 schools in the St. Louis and Metro East area for those counselors to recommend 4 students from each school, 2 to receive a full ride, and 2 students that will receive a full tuition scholarship. And so for anyone on the line, any high school seniors that are on the line and would like specific information to see if your school qualifies, then feel free to give the Office of Admission a call at Harris-Stowe State University at 314-340-3300. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I am also going to put that in our comment section with our Facebook Live. And so that completes our forum for this evening. We're going to go to our giveaways. And if there are any students on our that are listening live, please feel free to say hello in the chat. And so I'm going to pose a couple of questions. And if you do answer these questions correctly, you will qualify for a $10 Amazon gift card that will be emailed to you. And so my first question is, what is today? Why is today important? And I kind of gave the answer earlier. And then also, if you're listening to this and you would like to send me the response, we can do that as well. So why is today important? And I'm looking at our chat right now. I don't see anyone commenting. Okay, so if one of our speakers can tell us, why is today important? What is the significance about today? And I'm sorry, Miss Hubbard, we would have to exclude you from saying why today is important. Oh, come on now.
Voter registration day.
Yes. Thank you so much, Ms. Ross. Voter registration day. And so the next question I have is, I see it here in the chat. Ms. Evans put voter registration day. Thank you so much, Ms. Evans. So another thing that was mentioned in our forum conversation, and it's also in the chat as well, what is one of the important things for navigating college through COVID-19? And this answer can be whatever you feel is best important. But what is one thing that you feel is really important when navigating college through COVID-19? And I shared an answer in the chat, so I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Research. One thing for me, research is very, very important. Anyone else? And also our seniors, not just seniors, any high school students, I'm checking the chat now. You can also share that information as well. Okay. Will one of our presenters like to state what is one thing what's one thing you think it's very important with navigating college through COVID-19?
Communication.
Yes.
Yes, to add to that, do not be afraid to reach out to students as well as advisors, but current students, they can sometimes give you the real thing that you need to know instead of the politically correct answers that you may hear from counselors and so forth.
And also read the circulations and emails and messages and everything that is sent to you so you can stay posted on what's current.
I would say time management, and just make sure that you make time to study, make time to meet your deadlines and everything.
Yes. Thank you so much. And I see that we are at the 8 o'clock hour, and I don't want to extend anyone's time. I would like to thank you all so much for coming out today and sharing information. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And then also we will have our closing remarks from Ms. Lanita Blackman.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, let me say thank you to our students and our faculty and staff guests who are here tonight, who presented and provided information on their universities of choice. We greatly appreciate you taking the time out to talk with us. Also, I'd like to thank our sorority members for presenting this information, our chair and co-chair, Ms. Heather Day and Ms. Melanie Davis, along with the subcommittee chairman, Ms. Graves. And I'd like to thank Ms. Hubbard for her presentation on voting information. Last but not least, we do have some other activities that are coming up this week. So you can follow us at AKA GOSTL on all of our social media pages. That's Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, as well as our chapter website. And lastly, I wanted to add, just as a parent myself, I have two young students, one in 8th grade and one who's a freshman in high school. She is attending school and my son is at home virtually. So we're juggling that. And as a parent, it has been difficult. And I know that as a student, it's difficult for them as well. So for those of you who are students, the one thing that I want to say is just take a deep breath. Sometimes you have to log off, whether that be social media or the classroom. And just take a deep breath and just think about happier times. I know that we're about to go into the fall and winter seasons and things are going to change yet again. But just be mindful of that. Also, one thing too, when you're on the computer all day long, you have to take time away or just sit there and close your eyes and just give your eyes a break for 30 seconds. That can also help. And lavender, I love lavender. If you can get some lavender and take a smell of that, that'll calm you down too. But on behalf of the 391 members of Gamma Omega chapter, once again, we say thank you, we appreciate you, and have a